Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we begin part one of a big planting project on the north side of my house. So let's go. This area is about to see a lot of change. And when it comes to our gardening projects, changes don't happen overnight. They can take a number of days or even a number of weeks. They might even take a number of years. This past winter, I had a number of trees removed. They were large trees that were hanging over my house. It was not safe, so we needed to remove 2 trees from over here. And as we head in this direction, we also had a number of trees removed down over here. When we did that, what happened was what was once a very shady part of my yard has now become a very sunny part of my yard. What I'm going to do is put up on the screen what this area looked like last year when there were trees here and how shady this section of my yard was. As many of you know, most varieties of hosta thrive in shade. They might take part shade, but this flower bed is now considered full sun, and these hosta are not looking very good at all. In fact, I want you to notice the difference. Once you get to this point right here, the hostas start to look a little bit better. And that's because they're starting to get more in shade. But I don't want to live with a flower bed that looks like this. Since I now have what is a full sun flower bed, I need to convert this flower bed. And step one is removing all of these hosta. To do this project, I have some basic tools. I have a large shovel that I'm going to use to dig out the hosta. I also have a small hand pruning saw. I'll be using that later on today, and that's to cut up the hosta or divide the hosta into smaller pieces. I have a small hand rake, just that's going to help me get off some of the soil off the base of the hosta plants. And then there are hand pruners to help with cutting back any of the flower stalks that are on the plant, cutting back any of the tattered leaves, and if we need to cut back some of the roots or root prune, we can do that with the hand pruners. I have my handy dandy gloves, and then finally I have a bucket to collect any of the leaves as well as the flower stalks. I mentioned that this is going to be a multi-day project because you can imagine just with digging up all the hosta and dividing the hosta is a project in itself. There are a lot of other plants in here that will get removed. I'll be doing that on a different day. Some of the plants include European ginger. It is definitely not very happy. It should be a much glossier green leaf to it. Other shade-loving plants in this bed that are looking okay, but I'm still going to be removing them on a later date, include columbine and astilbe. Towards the front of the flower bed, we have some heuchera. Some look okay, but many of them don't look very good. So those will get moved as well on a different day. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a flavor of what I'm planning to put in this space. You know me, I love to shop my own garden. So let's head down towards the back of my yard. There are some beautiful plants in here that I've had for a number of years, and I put them in here as a temporary holding place. Well, their day has come for them to move. Not today, but very soon. I have a whole bunch of peonies, and I got the peonies from my parents' house when they passed away, and some of them are from my mother-in-law's house when she passed away. I've divided the peonies over the last many years, which is why I ended up with so many. And then let's look at these plants over here. But before I tell you what's there, a huge shout out to my husband, Brad. He did a lot of work in here. He actually came in and he edged this area, and he really did a great job with coming in and pulling out all the weeds. He also cut back all of the daylilies, and they are ready for me to go. That's what's in this area all the way down, are a whole bunch of different kinds of daylilies. You can see that this area is getting sun right now, but in fact, this area is considered part shade. It does not get that much sun. It gets a little bit of sun in the morning, but not enough for it to be even classified as part sun. It's definitely considered part shade. So when it comes to the peonies as well as the daylilies, they're not happy. They don't do a good job here. They don't bloom well for me at all. They don't get enough sun. However, where we're working today, which is down over there, that area is actually considered full sun, believe it or not. So this is where a lot of these plants are going to end up going. This is what I'm talking about though. This is a big project. We're not going to tackle this today, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of what's to come. I'm going to start with cutting back all the flower stalks on my hosta plants. Even though there are some flowers here that the hummingbirds enjoy, there are a lot of other flowers in my yard for the hummingbirds. I want to clean up these plants as best as possible. So I'm just following each flower stalk down to the base, and I'm using my hand pruners and I'm cutting. And then I'm just going to cut each piece into smaller pieces that I can then add to my compost pile. I wanted to bring you along on this project because I think it's important to show you basically issues that we can run into in our garden. Issues like an area that's not thriving for multiple reasons, which in my case has to do with the sun situation. That a garden space that was once shady is now sunny because trees were removed. And you might have the opposite situation. You might have what was once a very sunny area that's packed with sun-loving plants that has now become shady, and those sun-loving plants are no longer thriving. The next thing I'm going to do is come in with my hand pruners, and I'm going to cut back any of the leaves that don't look very good. I want to just make sure I leave a fair amount of leaves on here, but I also know that the plant will continue pushing out new leaves. So I don't need to necessarily leave all the leaves on here. I think it's also important to share with you that when it comes to doing projects, it's nice to have some sort of a goal or a strategy and try to be realistic with that. That's what I'm trying to do. This is a very big project. It's not realistic for me to come in here, take all these hosta and move them over to that area that's shady, but then also take all of those daylilies, all of those peonies and move them all here and expect to do that in one day. It's just not realistic. So I feel like it's very doable for me to come in here, and it's still a lot of work, and take out all of these hosta, dig them up, divide them. I'm going to be potting them up, and the reason I'm going to pot them up is I don't want to worry today about moving them and getting them planted anywhere because that area is not ready for them yet. I'm going to be potting them up, and my goal is to save some of them for that space, but there's going to be plenty of plants here. And as some of you know, I have a backyard plant nursery where I sell plants, and someone had reached out to me recently asking if I had 30 or 40 hosta plants. By the time I divide all of these down, plus some more hosta that I have in another area close to here, I'm going to have plenty of hosta that I can also sell to that individual. So I'm just continuing to come in here, and I'm cutting back again all my hosta leaves. The hosta plants are fine, so the leaves can actually get put in my compost pile as well. The big thing is I will be sterilizing my tools that I'm using in between each of my hosta plants. And that's because I don't want to spread any sort of disease from one plant to another. And that's especially important with certain plants like hosta plants. Now that the flower stalks have been cut back, the damaged leaves have been cut back, the next step is to remove the mulch from the base of my plant because this area has been freshly mulched. And then we're going to go ahead and start digging up our hosta. So I'm just going to lift up the leaves and pull back the mulch layer that's here. We had just put this mulch layer down in the springtime, so I don't want to make it too messy. I'm noticing I have an irrigation line here, so I want to be very careful when I'm digging the hosta up. And here's the line on this side of the hosta plant. I'm going to use my shovel, and I don't want to dig right at the base of the plant. I want to dig a few inches away from the base so I don't ruin my plant. I can come on the other side here and dig this way. Fortunately, this is not a terribly big plant. If I had to guess, it's only been here for maybe 2 or 3 years. Just give it a tug. And I want to remove some of the soil that's on the base of my hosta plant, just so I don't have to fill in the hole that's here. We can go ahead and just clean up our mess. And I have my garden cart lined with a pool liner that I actually got from my mother-in-law's home. I never really knew what I was going to use it for, Let me tell you, this is the best thing ever. I use it all the time when it comes to moving plants and dividing plants, just so I don't get dirt everywhere. So the goal for today is to fill this cart up. One down and many more to go. Let's get busy. Oh my goodness, some of those hosta were an absolute beast to dig out, but we filled up this whole garden cart with hosta plants. It's going to be a lot of work to divide them, but it was a lot of work to dig them up, and I'm so glad we did. Let me show you what the space looks like now that it's emptied out. On one hand, I could be sad that those hosta were just planted here not very long ago. But on the other hand, I'm very happy because I have opportunity to plant some beautiful sun-loving perennials in this space. And the way I feel about this is there's always change happening in our garden, so we need to embrace the change. There are other perennials that prefer shade that will get moved, and I will do that on a different day. I think together we got a lot accomplished. The back is now fully empty, and the space is ready to receive some new plants back there. The flower stalks were removed, but I still need to come in and remove all of the damaged leaves. But next I want to show you my process for just dividing a hosta plant and then what I do in terms of potting it up. I'm going to be very busy the next couple of days cleaning up, dividing, and potting up these hosta. I'm going to bring you in for a closer look to show you my process for dividing hosta in case you've missed it in previous videos. When it comes to dividing your hosta plant, there are a lot of different ways you can propagate it. You could use something like your large shovel, come right in, and you could cut your hosta plant in half. And you could do that when the plant is in the ground or out of the ground. Since the plant is already out of the ground, I like to use something like a hand pruning saw. This is by a company called Corona. A lot of different companies make saws like this. A tool like this is perfect for cutting through the roots of different plants. So I'm going to press the button on the top here and open up my hand pruning saw. When it comes to dividing your plant, you're looking for a good place to make your division. And when you look at it on this side, there's no obvious opening where I could come in and make a cut. So let's turn this around. If I pull these leaves back, I can see that I can make a nice division right in here. I want to be very careful. I'm using a sharp tool. I don't want to cut my hands. And I'm just going to cut straight down. And now I can go ahead and carefully take this hosta away from the bigger hosta plant. I could definitely pot up this plant or plant this out in the landscape the way it is, but I'm actually going to divide it down one more time. And many times when you have small pieces like this, you can try to just pull them apart. And when you do that, they fall apart nice and easy. I like to reuse container pots that I get from a local plant nursery. They have a recycling bin there, and it works out well for just being able to pot up plants. These roots look good. They're not extensive, but if my division had a whole bunch of roots in the bottom of it, I could come in with something like my hand pruners and I could prune the roots. Pruning the roots just makes it so that I could fit my plant a little bit easier inside of its container pot. It doesn't harm the plant at all, as long as you leave a good amount of roots still on your plant. I have potting mix here, and it's basically compost that I get for free from a local transfer station. And I've also mixed in some used potting mix so that this drains really nice and well for me. Speaking of root pruning, if you had to prune the roots in order to get your plant to fit in the hole that you dug in the ground, You could also prune some of the roots at that time. So I'm going ahead and I'm just backfilling, and this plant is ready to go. I have a tray of hosta potted up, but I have many trays left to go. It's not going to be done in one day. I've gone ahead and given the hosta in the cart a drink of water. I'm also going to keep all these hosta in my shed, which is shaded. And well, we're going to continue working on that project of turning a shady garden into a sunny garden. You'll have to let me know if you're working on any garden spaces in your yard this year, and if so, what are you working on? I'd love to hear from you. And I really hope you follow me through this journey of getting that garden bed turned into a full sun garden space. I can't wait. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.